in more specific quality. I don't know if you notice. If you notice, we are online. We are online. We are getting hopefully more views, and you are actually free to talk a little bit. But I will introduce you to our public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. We have Burc from Prisync as a company which produce interesting software, and we'll be talking today about e-commerce, and particularly about price strategies. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's a perfect introduction.
I'm pretty sure you will be explaining what we do and everything around.
Yeah,
Okay, we have David Sois from London SEO consultant. We have Kate from 42 DM Marketing Agency.
And John, I need 1 minute to move from the music because it's too loud. I think it's
Go ahead. Okay, we have Martianaway from Nottingham, from England, United Kingdom, and he is an e-commerce specialist as well as many others. We have Musa Hemani. He's a prolific blogger and SEO consultant from Pakistan. He recently wrote several articles on e-commerce. One of them was in Moore's blog, which obviously tells us about quality. Okay, guys, I have to do a couple of technical things. If you can talk a little bit, just for five minutes.
I can speak if you like. So, by the way, thanks for the nice introduction, Antut, on behalf of all the guests of this event. As you mentioned, I will be basically going through pricing strategies for e-commerce companies, because what we basically do as a company is just at the core of e-commerce pricing. But I have a particular question to Musa. So if he can basically share the link of that article, of that famous article, with us from the chat box.
It wasn't really about pricing, but it was about the product page, how you should be building up the product page from the technical point of view, from the content point of view, from every other point of view. So let me share the link.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, and yeah. So I can start at any point you like with my presentation. So basically, let me kind of explain you what I have in mind in terms of presentation. I prepared hopefully not so boring PDF, which will go through the most common pricing strategies that we already know. So there is this cost-based pricing where you have the cost of a product and add a profit margin. And there you have also value-based pricing strategies. But for me, one of the most interesting parts of the pricing is, the part that is connected to psychology. So, we perceive prices, and that it really affects our, purchasing decisions. So I also wanted to add a brief part at the end of the presentation by covering these psychological tips. And obviously, I think I haven't introduced what we do as a company so far. So basically, we are a competitor price tracking software. So we at the moment help e-commerce companies of all sizes from all verticals. So I can count consumer electronics, mom and baby, sex toys, pet food, and all these sort of e-commerce companies are tracking their competitor prices on a daily basis with our automation. So we already work with companies from 40 countries. So it has already become a global product. And also, me, myself, and my team are also organizing a huge e-commerce meetup in Istanbul. So it has more than 2,000 members already. So we get together on a monthly basis. And actually, in the next few weeks, we have another hot project, which will be a kind of reflection of that on Hangouts. So we kind of plan to have e-commerce online meetups, which will gather different e-commerce companies as speakers of the event. So imagine we will have a e-commerce executive from Thailand, and one guy from Italy, and one guy from Spain. So they will be all sharing their own e-commerce experiences, and we will be asking them questions and learning about e-commerce experiences in different parts of the world. So we are actually cooking this project up, and since we are already connected, I will definitely ping you up when it goes live, and hopefully you will be the one of the first guests of the event. So Anton, I can start at any point you like. So should I wait, or should I go? Which way you prefer?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you're ready, go ahead. Why not?
Okay. So as I mentioned, I will be sharing my presentation. So let me quickly open that up. Let me just a second screen share. Please let me know if you really see the presentation.
Yep.
Okay, it should be full screen now. Is it full screen at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So as I mentioned, I will be, doing my. By the way, I think one of you is actually at an outdoor place. So can you mute the microphone if possible? I don't know whose voice is that, but I kind of hear a lot of outdoor noise. Okay, perfect. I don't know who. Okay, it's gone. Okay, perfect. Thank you, whoever did that. So my presentation will be, as I mentioned, on how to price your products online. And once again, my name is Burc Tanir, and I'm the CEO and the co-founder of the company that you see over here. It's called Prisync. So we kind of, played with the name, pricing and synchronization. So we came up with this. I hope you also like the logo and the name. So because I really love that. So basically today's agenda will go through these bullet points. So I will basically first emphasize why really online pricing matters. Maybe it's not really even necessary to emphasize it, but it's still worth to go through that. And then I mentioned that I will be going through the famous pricing methodologies like cost-based pricing, market-oriented pricing, and consumer-oriented pricing, and then I will try to come up with a conclusion. And at the end of the presentation, I love surprises, so I will be kind of giving you guys, and hopefully for the other attendees that will join us in the next few minutes, a little surprise. So once again, pricing really matters, and that's why we are actually working on a product that that is at the heart of the e-commerce pricing, because more than 60% of online shoppers name the online prices as the biggest purchasing decision motivator. So, and in emerging markets like, for example, our country, Turkey, or Southeast Asia, this ratio is even higher. So people, of course, name other stuff like security, delivery, and all these other nice and fancy features of e-commerce, but still price is I don't know, somehow still the most important factor of pricing decisions, purchasing decisions, sorry. And also, kind of as a reflection of that, more than 90% of shoppers are actually kind of deal hunting on every single purchase they make. So by deal hunting, I mean they spend more than 10 minutes on average purchase. So they basically go through different websites, comparing their prices and kind of picking the best deal ever. And also to do that, they have other sources. So they have actually, different tools to do that easily, which is called comparison shopping engines. So the most famous ones being like Google Shopping, and also there are many other, comparison shopping engines in, every single country. So there are local ones or global ones. And also on average, an e-commerce site competing on a comparison engine drives more than 20% of their traffic through these channels. So eventually, pricing really matters for any e-commerce company out there. So that's what I wanted to say about the emphasis of importance of pricing. So the first pricing strategy that I will go through is the most simplistic one, but still, even though it's very simplistic, while we are dealing with companies working on crafting on their, e-commerce pricing strategies, we still see that companies are still failing at this strategy. So they, for the sake of growth, for the sake of, kind of fast growth, I would say, they kind of sometimes ignore their costs and they fight a lot on pricing. So they really try to offer competitive strategies without taking care of their costs. And then eventually they are not making any profit margin. So they are actually having a lot of loss in every single purchase. So here, one of the main reasons why companies fail to implement cost-based pricing is that cost is not only the unit product cost. So you don't only pay for the product at the supplier purchase. So there are also overhead webshop spendings for every single product that you retail, that you sell. So that's we have SEO experts with us now. So we have probably marketing experts as well. So we spend CPC, for example. We employ people. We have I don't know, storage space, and all these should be overheaded as the unit product cost in order to come up with a cost-based pricing strategy and in order to define a profit margin. And while defining the profit margin in cost-based pricing, the market niche and the competition level is also important. So the danger, actually, the risk of cost-based pricing is actually undervaluing yourself in most circumstances. For example, if you have managed to acquire actually a niche in the market, then you should really aim for high premium profit margins. But we sometimes see, companies that are really naive at that level. So they really aim for very low profit margins, actually lower than that they can achieve. So they are eventually undervaluing themselves. Or sometimes companies actually somehow ignore the competition out there, and they really try to aim for high profit margins that does not attract any shopper out there. So then they turn out to be uncompetitive. So here, the most important part is actually to calculate the cost properly by overheading all the other spendings, and actually defining in what kind of market you are actually competing in. Either it's a niche one or it's a very competitive one, like, for example, consumer electronics. So here, another factor actually affecting the prices. So, for example, like costs, sometimes we see companies that are really tied into a price agreement with their suppliers. So, for example, they don't even have the chance to, add a profit margin that they calculate, but their suppliers actually kind of demand, or they actually suggest a price. So we, for example, work with companies that needs to monitor their supplied products in the e-commerce market. For example, I am a supplier of, hard disk or whatever consumer electronics products, and I am retailing this product at more than hundreds of online shops. So I want some level of control in their prices, because otherwise I would lose the control of everything. So in such cases, we see that retailers, actually suppliers, suggest prices to the retailers. So then we see the same exact price actually applied at every single level. So this is not really a strategy, but a condition. So since it's tied to cost-based pricing at the cost level, at the supplier level, I just wanted to add this as an extra. Another pricing strategy, or actually let's say approach, is actually orienting yourself towards the market. So it's market-oriented pricing. Here, the biggest consideration should be actually defining your unique selling proposition. Again, like I mentioned, the market that we are competing in. So maybe we quote a niche, or we are really in a harshly competitive market. So here, to define this, actually we need to focus on our unique selling proposition. So is our unique selling proposition value or price related? So people are buying a value from us, or people are buying the best deal from us. So when we decide on this, actually we can really understand how to orient ourselves in the market, and actually according to that we can actually see how do we stand alongside our competitors. So in most cases, since we are a competitive tracking company, competitive price tracking company, people think that we are actually helping companies to lower their prices versus competitors all the time. So since they think that we try to beat every single competitor's prices, and we try to help them become minimum all the time. But what we say here is that optimum price is not the minimum price at all. So in some circumstances, we see that by monitoring, by having an idea on the competitive landscape in terms of pricing, companies can have a lot of positions where they can actually increase their prices, because sometimes they notice that they are really undervalued, so they have relatively very low prices. So for example, let's say you have price of a product as 90, whereas your competitors are all 39. So when you spot such a circumstance, you can actually increase your price more than $10, for example, and still be the minimum in the market, but you can gain more of $10 out of every single sale. So in such cases, you can either lower or raise prices. So here, another kind of an extra bullet point is penetration pricing. So while, for example, you are penetrating into a market as a new player, so as a new competitor for the other guys in the market, we can actually see that companies price their products extremely low. But this shouldn't be a sustainable strategy. This shouldn't be a it should be a temporary strategy. So for example, for a month, for 3 months and stuff. Sometimes we see that companies actually try to sustain through penetration pricing, try to be the lowest in the market since their launch, and then eventually they fail. So it should be definitely avoided. So here, as an extra subject, I wanted to talk about the competitor price tracking aspect of things. So we believe that it's a must, because thanks to our extensive data, we see that more than 2% of online prices change on a daily basis. So we are talking about an extremely dynamic market in terms of price changes. And since a company retails on average, I have to say, like 2,000, 5,000, 50,000 SKUs depending on the vertical, and let's say they have like 10 competitors, 50 competitors. So you can imagine the number of price points needed to be monitored, and imagine that you are doing this manually through Excel files, visiting all these competitors' web pages and stuff. So it's impossible. So it's really necessary to get automated. And while getting automated, we try to deliver our customers with our solution email alerts. So they don't need to focus on all the price points, all the data points, but we kind of show them the ones that they need to act upon. So we send email alerts. Sometimes we use our API to integrate with companies so that they can do dynamic pricing. And by doing that, they actually spend only for example, fees like $49 per month, but they can get extremely solid return on investment out of this. So this is how our dashboard looks like. So you can see, and I can show this later on if you like, and you can actually use it at a later point. We try to monitor all the prices one by one for competitors, and we have nice charts that are showing the historical, fluctuations. I think you can get the idea behind the competitor price tracking tool. So I will be, going through these slides at a faster rate. So another strategy is consumer-oriented pricing strategy, which is similar to market-oriented pricing, but here we rather focus on the consumer instead of the market. So here another similar question is actually about unique selling proposition, but this time we focus on our customers. So when we think about our customers, we should say, would they pay a premium or are they really deal hunters? So we can see, for example, shoppers of gadgets, consumer electronics, and all these things. So we totally know by heart that these guys are deal hunters. But if we are talking about jewelry, for example, or luxury items, we should know that such guys are not going to spend even 10 minutes for finding the cheapest price out there, because they are paying 20,000 euros for a ring. So why would they just spend their valuable time on deal hunting? So understanding customer is vital here, and also we believe that psychology is also a part of the deal. So I kind of wanted to say something like if pricing is a science actually, and eventually it's a science, it's actually a branch of economy. So if it's a science, it's not only an economics actually, it's a mix of economics and psychology, we believe. So I want to go into more detail here, as I mentioned at the beginning. So there is actually psychology of pricing. Sorry for the typo here. It's actually psychology of pricing. It's not or pricing. So here there are actually number of theories about the pricing. So this one here called charm pricing is the most famous one, the most basically tacit one and implicit one that we see all around the world. But it's actually really kind of validated. So it's actually experimented, tested out, and we have certain scientific results on that. So here, for example, the results are, if you have 19.9 versus $20, for example, for a product, your conversion rates on a product page can actually increase for almost 100%. So it can actually double the conversion rates if you apply the more charming price on the left-hand side. So obviously not 20, but the 19.9. Another interesting pricing, again, psychology or pricing, again, psychology of pricing is called rational pricing. So this is actually more interesting. For example, you have two prices over here, so 93.53 versus 93. So if, for example, the psychology of pricing is affected by the type of the product that we are talking about. So for example, here, we are talking about rational pricing because the product in the example is a consumer electronics product with a Lenovo S8 something something. So if we are talking about such a product that we buy through our actually ration, so buy through our not through our emotions or something. In this case, we actually value prices that are more with more digits, more precise, like 19.53 better, because we feel kind of secure, we feel kind of validated when we see such rational pricing. So in such cases, for such products, the left side option actually wins in terms of conversion rate. Similarly, there is also something called emotional pricing. So if, for example, we are talking about I don't know, home decor product like this emoji cushion pillow. So it's a nice sweet pillow with an emoji face on it. So when you see such product, you don't really want to deal with the price tag. You don't want to deal with the pricing of it, how to pay that and stuff. But at that moment, you just want to own it. You just want to hug that pillow. You want to show your love to that pillow. So in such cases, you don't really want to deal with the digits. So for such products that we buy through our emotions, most of the time we prefer the right-hand side, so the cleaner price, for example, here, 13 wins in terms of conversion rates. And another interesting psychological pricing fact, actually, let's go theory, is that smaller fonts work much better in conversion rates. So it's actually like magic, because you are kind of small, decreasing the size of the price, and suddenly in human perception, it really decreases. It really decreases. So, and we also found out few articles on the research that has been done that. And actually, when you also combine this theory with anchor pricing, so for example, if you apply this in discounts in sales, so if you put a huge, for example, 29.19 with a large font, and if you go with a dash on it, so if you want to say, oh, okay, this was this much, and then if you put a very small 19.99 under that, it really signifies the amount of the discount that you are making. So better use smaller fonts while pricing your products. Another interesting, actually more interesting but similar psychological pricing theory is actually using fewer syllables. So in the previous example, we were talking about the smaller fonts and smaller prices in a way, and here we are talking about shorter prices and actually again smaller prices. So if you actually use prices that are sounding with less syllables, so here for example on the left hand side we have 27.82 versus 28.16. So the second one is sounding somehow shorter. So there is actually an interesting research showing that the right hand side actually improves the conversion of the product, even though online we don't pronounce the prices. But I think somehow in our minds we are explicitly pronouncing that, and we are getting more convinced. So in short, we can talk for hours or for days, I don't know, for a quite long time on pricing, because it's a really serious subject, and actually it's not really regarded as part of the marketing, but it's oftentimes given to a department. So most of the time you see pricing departments disconnected from the other parts of the company, but actually we believe that pricing can be a marketing weapon in e-commerce, because as you see, you can apply different pricing strategies, different pricing tactics as conversion rate optimizers. So it's better to think through that, and it's better to kind of play the pricing game as a game sport instead of just delegating that to a certain guy in the company or certain department in the company, but to have a holistic approach on that by applying them on on your marketing department, on your sales department, and then eventually you will have a conversion boost, hopefully. So thanks for listening. So this was my PDF. Hopefully you got the energy that I tried to share. You got the enthusiasm that I have on e-commerce, as you also see here. And as the little surprise that I mentioned at the beginning, if you go to our website and if you play around with our free trial, and if you ever want to actually become a paid user, and if you let them know that you watched our webinar on webpromo.expert, you will get some special deal over there. So thanks for listening. I'm totally ready to answer any of your questions, any of your ideas, comments on the presentation. Thank you. So I'm sharing my, stopping sharing my screen. So I'm sharing my face.
Just want to say one thing. I was on the computer glitch, so everybody who's watching us can not see hypercomments down the screen. If you can reload your page, because it was a glitch, I actually fixed it during the first minute. But if you were watching it, it was still watchable. But as just down there, the comments was not. I'm talking to audience, not to you guys. Wasn't available. So if you cannot see hyper comments, where you can actually put your comments and questions and everything. If you can see it, reload the page, and we will be here. We're not gonna go anywhere. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, I said for interesting things. I had to admit, I spent a lot of time fixing this glitch, so I missed it, but I'll have a recording. Recordings will be available. Okay, guys. Well, yeah, there it is. Any comments? I'm really sorry. I was fixing this glitch and I really missed it. Yeah.
I thought it was, especially for me, it was fascinating hearing the psychological side. I mean, we know about the pricing down 1999, 1997, but I think some of the other the other points that you made there were fascinating and definitely something I'd like to try out.
Yeah.
One question I have is a lot of websites that you see, they have quite often they show the discounting. So the recommended manufacturer's price, the cost on the website, and then they show the savings. Is there any particular way you see that should be shown that works better?
Yeah, actually, eventually, if you have the chance to kind of exaggerate the anchor price, so, if you don't really need to be that honest at that number, it's recommended to show that anchor as high as possible. So, because nobody would care about that price. So the end price is the, price that the consumer will care about. So if you can increase that as, obviously as logical as possible, then it will work. And as I mentioned at the, font part, if you use that anchor price, so anchor price is the price that went down, for example, the original price of the product. So if you actually use that price font as a larger font and then use the current price, updated price as a smaller font, kind of our mind observes that there is an even bigger discount because there's a smaller font. So maybe that can be added to your comment.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one more question associated to that question. That's like, you said that there should be an anchor price that should be on the bigger font, and then you cut the price and put it in the low font. What about the colors? Like, what kind of colors we should be using when you're, I mean, have you done any research kind of things? Or
actually, I also think through that, because we always end up with colors when we are talking about psychology and marketing. Blue is trust, green is this, and red is that, and all this sort of stuff. But when I did this research on prices, I didn't really find some exact research like that. But I think that can be related again with part where I mentioned rational purchases and emotional purchases. So if you actually kind of associate products in that mindset. So if a product is, for example, purchased with our emotions or with our minds, with our rations, I think you can associate the colors accordingly. So obviously, if it's through our emotions, if it's through our love and stuff, we would pick red, I think. But red also might be dangerous and all this stuff. I think it's a good point of further investigation, Musa. I don't know.
I think it's interesting. I think Amazon, the UK Amazon website anyway, uses orange for their pricing.
Okay.
And I mean, that's one of those websites that's always interesting. It's funny. I had a project recently looking at a couple of e-commerce websites. So that's actually one of the areas I was looking at, how prices were displayed, whether discounts were shown. Very interesting. Just one other quick question. Do you find there's a different psychology across locations, nationalities, cultures?
That's what the question was.
As I mentioned at the beginning, so people's purchase, buyers' choices actually really are affected from their demographics, from their country. So in emerging markets, as I mentioned, people are real deal hunters. So they are really more price sensitive. So they use heavily price comparison engines of all sorts. So as I mentioned at the beginning, in global average, 60% of people name the pricing as the major factor affecting their purchase decision. But I think in emerging markets we can say that this ratio is even higher than 70%. Especially, for example, since I'm from Istanbul, Turkey, I know that people are real deal hunters. So I can tell them.
Sorry, can I ask one more question?
Sure, Kate.
What about SaaS packages? You know this, like package, how SaaS likes packaging, how 3 packages, 4 packages, and so on. Have you researched ever how many packages is most effective? How to drive one of the packages as the best one? Have you ever researched this topic? As you're a SaaS, you should.
Yeah, so I think you're not exactly talking about e-commerce, but SaaS pricing, so like software as a service. So on that aspect, I was personally involved because I'm not an e-commerce site owner, I'm not a retailer, but I'm a SaaS guy. So we worked through our pricing quite a long time, and there actually we found out that I think the most crucial part is to give people the chance to sense differences in different plans. So, if you give just randomly, 3 different plans, 4 different plans, that does not really have certain differentiation. So it doesn't really matter which plan you pick. Then why you have different plans? But in our current pricing, we noticed that we don't need more than 3 different plans to really differentiate them. And actually, we also focused on not picking just a single dimension that changes in different plans, but we decided to have multiple dimensions. So, for example, in our case, we have the number of products being monitored with pricing as a factor affecting our plan. So, for example, if you want to monitor up to 100 products, it's $49. If it's 1,000 products, if it's it's $119. But that's not the only criteria affecting the prices, because you don't always have a company that retails 50 products, but they might need extra features, interesting features. So you should be actually trying to upgrade, trying to upsell them, and trying to get as much as money from them as possible, because they are ready to pay. So I think using multiple dimensions is quite crucial, and actually making sure that by putting yourself in the shoes of your consumer, you should be also convinced about upgrading your plan at a certain point. So you shouldn't be just at the smallest plan forever, but you should be kind of upgrading all the time, during your lifetime, basically.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one more question about the plans you have for the development. You are now focusing on the e-commerce. What markets are you planning to enter with your tool in the nearest future? Are you planning to stay in e-commerce, or maybe you want to expand your services to other markets? Well,
actually, we are now purely. Sorry, I'm trying to plug my battery. So we are now purely focused on e-commerce, because focus is, I think, quite crucial. And actually, at the beginning, we were even more focused, and we said, okay, we will start with consumer electronics e-commerce sites. But one day later, we just had a sign up which is a guy that was selling parrot feed. So it's a pet food retailer, but it's so niche, and that retailer is selling parrot food. And then we noticed that actually we don't really need to be that focused, because we observed that there is a competition at every single vertical of e-commerce. So we then stopped that limitations. But another interesting thing that we limited ourselves at is that we don't deal with booking sites, for example. We don't deal with airplanes. In that case, the product that we name is not exactly a product. So in order to name a price, you need to pick a lot of options, like the destination, the time of the flight, let's say, and all this stuff. But for a product, it's always an Emporio Armani 100 milliliter eau de toilette. So it's always a product. So in that respect, we limited ourselves to online shopping sites of all sorts of products, I can tell.
So I've got a quick question.
Oh, sorry.
Go on, Kate. It's okay. You go first.
And what other functions are you planning to develop?
Sorry?
Where are you? I'm just curious. Where are you? We had guests from a train in Switzerland. He was using his mobile phone, and
Not a
train.
outside.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead with your question.
Okay, so the question was about the functions that you are planning to develop in the nearest future.
Okay,
How do you plan to expand the product?
We actually, don't see ourselves only as a competitor price tracking. So that's the I think boldest statement that I can make at the moment. So what we envision as a product is actually a product that really prices the products on behalf of the company. So we want to disrupt how companies do their pricing. So we actually obviously want to focus on dynamic pricing. So we want to let companies automatically change their prices depending on certain rules about the competitive landscape, but also not only competitive landscape, but the daytime inventory levels of that particular product, retrospective sales performances. So we kind of want to build the smartest pricing engine out there, which could replicate, the smartest pricing expert in the market. So and also for a very small amount of monthly fees, obviously for small and medium business companies as well. So that's the vision. So we want to focus on smart automated pricing for e-commerce companies of all sizes. And at the beginning, we are actually at the level where we only deliver the data and let company act upon that. And to go to the next level, actually, we are really in close touch with companies. So we are, talking all the time with them about what they are doing with the data that we deliver them. So what kind of actions they are taking upon that, what kind of competitive strategies they apply on that. And by learning all this sort of stuff, we want to implement a machine learning engine that will act just like them, actually. That's a long project, which we envision for the next 3-5 years, and maybe even longer. Who knows? I'm quite young, so.
So I had a thought on early on in the presentation. You mentioned psychology, and I've done quite a lot of conversion optimization, especially for e-commerce stores. And pricing is obviously vital, not only before they even land on your website, but when obviously they land on your website. But what are your thoughts on perception of value? It's fine thinking about prices, and you say the cheapest isn't necessarily always the best. But is it more about perception of value?
Mm-hmm.
Once a visitor lands on that website, is it important that they perceive the price to be good value, as opposed to actually being good value? It may well be that you're not the cheapest among your competitors, but you may well come across as being good value. What are your thoughts on the perception?
Actually, recently, maybe it's, I am quite biased, but, I have been reading a lot about pictures, the product pictures. That really is, a strong motivator about value perception. So, for example, recently we have been working with the biggest retailer in Turkey, and they, redesigned their website from scratch. And the biggest change that they implemented was that they really took care of their product pictures, because at the beginning they were just, like any other retailer. But now when you go to their website and, take a look at the products, it's like an art gallery, to be honest. So the product pages are, the product pictures are like HD perfect. So when you look at even an iPhone, you see a very, very nice picture. And then you observe that, you feel that, okay, I would pay maybe premium for that product. So at the moment, obviously you know more than me on conversion optimization, but product pictures are actually a very, very underrated conversion optimization tactic, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've got to say, I mean, pictures I've seen great success with on websites, and also product descriptions as well. I think, especially when you have a single product that is often across many websites, there's a certain amount of laziness that comes in. They take the supplier's images, they take the supplier's description, put those in. And I think for the person that then is looking for that product to see exactly the same image, exactly the same, often very dry description time and time again, can be very off-putting. And I think that there really is a winning situation where you can tweak the imagery, but also the description, and bring out your brand, your tone of voice from that. And then, of course, there's the impact of that on SEO as well. But I've seen that I've seen that used to some great success.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And also, the product descriptions, obviously is a good, SEO related field in e-commerce. But, what I see most recently is that, of course, you need to focus on SEO. But as you mentioned, David, the tone of voice is also quite crucial. So in order to not create a dry, tone of voice, I see a lot of, recent companies, kind of joking at their product description. So, for example, they are describing a product as if you already bought it and as if you are already enjoying it. I think it was a luggage company, a bag company. So their product, I hope I remembered the website so I could have shared, but it already crossed my mind. But it was like, you now had your bag, you put on your bag and you are walking on the street. So isn't it nice? So the product description was like a story, and there was a lot of buzz around that website. So I believe that they even generated quite a few sales through that buzz as well.
We do have some kind of question from the audience. Yuri asked, please give some more example of rational and emotional, irrational customer choices. Would any of you guys? Rational and emotional customer choices.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I think it's really about the type of the product that we are talking about. But people are also different. So some people are really rational, and some of them are very emotional. So maybe that can, maybe some people are even buying iPhones or computers emotionally. So I don't know. I'm not such a guy, so I cannot tell that exactly. But I think also, you can how to say change that perception as well. So you can build a consumer electronics website in such manner, and you can put your product pictures in a like a love figure way. So then maybe you can start buying, for example, like Apple. So Apple is not really a rational brand, even though it's a consumer electronics brand. So you can actually tweak that mind behaviors of human beings by changing the places of the stones actually. But I don't know, Yuri, if you have any ideas. If you have any hints, you can share maybe.
Yeah, okay, it was a question from audience. When we were mentioning all this packages, I always remember all these mobile phones where you absolutely impossible to understand who's the cheapest one, because they just do it everything this way, and the other one do it everything this way. It's just impossible to compare. But I guess you don't deal with this kind of problems.
Yeah, we when we for example at the beginning I was taking care of every sales pitch, every sales meeting and everything, and I think in more than 80% of the sales meetings I use the phrase that the optimum price is not the minimum price in the first 3 minutes, because all the time companies were having this fear of losing their profit margins, becoming minimum, so they will need to cover up the cost and everything. So when you have competitive intelligence, you don't need to be the cheapest all the time. You become intelligent in a way, because it's competitive intelligence. So as I mentioned, you can detect points where you are actually unnecessarily low, as I mentioned during the presentation, and you can increase your prices at that SKU. So this will increase your overall profit margins. And for example, on average, so far we have increased the profit margins of our test users, a certain batch of users, at 21%. So it's not too bad in a such harshly competitive market.
But did you do a composition of strengths? So I'll explain. We were talking about Amazon. Obviously, Amazon can raise price slightly, and people still will go there because they get used to it. They know it's brand name, and it's easy. It's easy. And if I'm Mr. Nobody and I'm trying to raise my price 20% more, I think I would be in trouble, isn't it?
Yeah, and in that case, we also see companies using their landing pages. So, for example, you don't need to actually always lower the prices of all your products, but we see a lot of e-commerce companies focusing on certain number of products to be at lowest step, because they're having a lot of search traffics and stuff. So when people land on those products where the company has the cheapest price, they see recommended products at the bottom. And when you eventually go to a e-commerce site and somehow get through that, you don't really, sometimes you get really easily confused by those recommended prices and recommended products, sorry. And then if you see that recommended product, sometimes you don't necessarily go to another website and compare the prices, because you somehow fall in love to this product. So actually, another interesting tactic is actually focusing on SEO heavy products with low prices, and then actually setting higher margins for the other recommended products in your portfolio, in your assortment.
Yeah, that is the practice our e-commerce clients are following, and this is really working. When you are focusing the lowest prices on the most high-ranked products, and then others are average price or even sometimes overpriced, and they have better margins, much better margins on this recommended thing. It really works.
Nice to hear that. Yeah.
It's like a supermarket when they try to sell milk and bread very cheap and put it in a very different part of the supermarket. So consumer go to a very cheap bread, and then after that go for the all everything and get this milk, and on the way he'll buy something which is very expensive.
Yeah, that definitely works.
And you always buy the lollipop by the cashier. That's also another analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but in e-commerce, so you click on a plane, and they offer you something very small value, but well, nice. Yeah. Interesting. Guys, do you have any more questions or comments? No, interesting. That's interesting. Kate is outside. My mat is black and white. I don't know for some reason, and no reason. Yeah. Okay. Just
I don't know.
just 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 a style. Okay. I'll check if we have more questions from audience, and yeah. Let's see. If we have some comments. No, I don't think we do have more questions. Guys, if you do have more questions, so yeah, I'll shoot them now. Yes, no, yeah, okay, if we don't have more questions, okay, thank you very much, Burc, for a very interesting presentation, which I unfortunately lost half of it. So, sorry about that, fixing a glitch. Thank you guys, and we'll go from left to right. Okay, thank you, David Suez from London. Thank you, Kate, from 4020 Marketing. And thank you, Matt Yanaway from Marketing Labs from Nottingham, England. And I don't know if Musa is still with us. Well, not very clear. His camera is off. Thank you, Musa. Anyway, thank you, guys. Okay, guys, thank you very much, and thank you everyone who were watching us or will be watching us in the recordings. Next, okay, yeah, Burc says blog. Yeah, okay. I understand Burc invited everyone to well to try to write for user. He'll be writing it. Don't it's not that easy, guys. Well, I'm pretty sure you can do it. If you do it in also everywhere where you already done. So thank you everyone who were watching us tonight. Depends on where you were, and I guess yeah, Musa, your camera is not really working or something. Okay, and I guess we're gonna offline. So before we go offline, I can say hi, Mom, I want to tell you.